So these days, even though all-on-X is like the sexy treatment, I think overdentures, removable overdentures is really where it's at. So in this week's tip, I'd like to share with you a case that I did, a removable overdenture with a bar, and I'll explain to you when I use a bar and when I don't use a bar for overdentures. All right, so this patient I'm going to show you had a severely resorbed maxilla, so he had to have a lot of grafting done, but then he had these 4 implants placed. I put some closed tray impression copings on and took a impression with the stock tray, and here's a stock tray that I used. But after that, I went back and I took a final impression with a verification jig. You see that here. And I did my regular occlusal records. And here you see what the lab sent me back. They sent me back this little denture with these 4 spots where it snaps in, and I'll show you how that works in a second. That's actually going to snap into my overdenture bar. So an overdenture bar, I use that to provide more support for my denture. This patient was a huge gagger, really big gagger, and so I wanted to make sure that, well, he wanted palateless, and so with palateless, we're having less space for support, and I really want to make sure that that denture is solid. So that's why I used this bar, and you see how the denture just snaps on really nicely to that bar. So I'm going to go ahead and take it to the patient's mouth now. Here you see we're removing the 4 healing abutments from the patient. Then after I remove the 4 healing abutments, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the bar on. So I'm putting the bar on and I'm going to tighten each screw. And now this bar just kind of sits up off the tissue and the denture is going to be able to snap on there. So before I torque anything down, I'm just putting the bar on and I'm making sure that it's fully seated. And then finally I'm going to go ahead and take that denture, seat it. So here's one more look at the denture. You see how it has no palate at all. It has like a very small footprint, right? So it's very important for this patient because he's a gagger. And so he was super happy with the result. All right, so I get this question really often. Should I use a bar or not use a bar? So I basically use a bar in 3 different scenarios. First, if the implants are divergent, you can use a bar to help you straighten up the path for the locators. All right, second, if your patient's jaw is really resorbed, if you have a patient that has a lot of resorption, like a little old lady or somebody who's had a denture for 20 years, a bar will help them because otherwise you're having a lot of thickness of acrylic and not too stable of a base, so a bar will help bring more stability. Third, I would use it when I'm working on the maxilla. The maxilla's bone is a little more soft. It can help to split those implants together and keep them from having too much stress on any individual implant. That said, you can only do a bar if your patient has these 2 criteria. The 2 criteria are if he's very compliant with cleaning, because otherwise it's just gonna be a mess. And the second thing is if your patient has enough restorative space. You do need a lot of restorative space in order to restore a bar. Otherwise, your teeth are gonna be breaking. That's gonna be a mess too. So those 2 criteria need to be met if you wanna do a bar for one of your patients. That said, I usually go no bar. Most of my patients don't fall into those categories, and so most of my overdentures are just done straight on locators on the implants without having a connecting bar. Hope that helps, guys. That was this week's tip. I'll catch you next week.